All right, we're going to talk about the calculator scavenger hunt page here. So for your calculator scavenger hunt, you guys had to go through and navigate some stuff, right? Try to think about, problem solve, click some buttons. Now, what I want to point out to you first is we're going to jump to number 20. Number 20 is really important because these aren't your personal devices. We share these devices across the class. So number 20 says, how do you clear your calculator? Did anyone figure it out? Yeah. Okay, what'd y'all do? It's not just keep clicking clear. There we go. It is second plus 712. So to clear your calculator, you're going to press second plus 712. And that is how you clear your RAM on your calculator. What that does is it erases tables, charts, graphs, any setting changes that someone prior to you have utilized. Okay. It's also very useful, like if you get an error, you're like, why am I getting a weird error? It's a good thing that you probably need to clear your RAM. Okay. So I will have you do this before every quiz and test. I will make sure you're like, hey, time to clear your RAM. Second plus 712. Second plus 712. Okay. I grew up in Austin, which were area code 512, and it used to be 512 on the older calculator. So it was easy for us, like, oh yeah, repping that second plus 512, you know, cheat the little eighth graders in our lives. But that was important for us to make sure we understand. Going back to the front of the page, how do you turn off the calculator? You just press second on. Okay. The blue writing or green writing tells you what button you may need to press first in order to activate that feature on there. Okay. How do you find pi? So hopefully for pi, you realize blue because I needed to get to a blue key. How do you multiply? Since pi acts as a variable in some regards, just because it's a symbol, you actually just type when you're multiplying and it will calculate the value, right? Now it says to the nearest tenth. If I want to, I can do it myself, right? It's 15 and 7/10 rounded. If I'm not great at rounding and I want the calculator round is what it's asking you. In order for the calculator to round to the nearest tenth for you, you have to change your mode. So you go to mode and then you're going to go from float to 1. That's because our tenth is 1 decimal place. Yes, tenths means 1 decimal place. 100th means 2 decimal places. Thousandths means 3 decimal places. And we continue. Once I'm at this 1, I'm going to click enter. And now to return to your calculator page from any window, it's always going to be second mode. I'm going to quit the screen. Now when I hit enter, it will round for me. So I end up with 15 and 7/10. Okay. How do you graph on it on the calculator? How do we graph on the calculator? What do we put? Well, how do we graph on the calculator? Well, what do you got to do in order to graph first? Y equals. You got to have something put in. If you don't go to y equals first, you can't graph anything. So to graph on the calculator, we go to y equals, we input, then we press graph. Okay. So it's y equals, input, then graph, right? So now we're going to graph 2x plus 3. So I type in 2x plus 3. Notice for x, I use my variable button here. It's called a variable button because it has several variables here. And now I'm going to press graph. I'm going to get the graph. Boom, bam, graph is there. I would draw the sketch. How do you get to the table? How do you get to a table? I have to hit second graph, right? To get to the table, it requires second graph because table is written in blue. So I'm going to press second graph. It takes me to my table. And now I can use my table to fill in. To move your table up and down, you have to navigate through your X's. That's because X is your independent variable. It's what defines your Y. If you try to go up and down using the Y's, all you're going to be able to do is go down. And it doesn't usually navigate up very well, but maybe on the update it will. But see how, nope, it doesn't. Notice how when I try to go up, can I move it up? No. You navigate through your table using your X values. Okay. So now I can fill in that -3 is -3. I can go down to 3. When y equals 3, then x equals 0. Okay. I can use that to fill in my table. All right. Next, it says, how do you change where your table starts? Well, in order to change where your table starts, that means you need some type of settings. I need table settings. And the words that look the most like table setting is table set, TBL set. So I'm going to hit second window. That's how you alter any setup of your table. Okay. I'm going to hit second window. And now it says change where you start. So I can type in, and on here, it wants us to go to 893. So now when I go back to my table, I can see that the value of 893 is 1,789. Okay. Also, I have an equation. Could I not have just plugged in x? 893 for x and solve that? Well, yes, you could have. So if you did that, great. Okay, on the back, this is just going through more little features like how do you find your power? So I'm going to hit second, quit. If I want a square, boom. Here it is. If I want something more than a square, you have to use your caret key. So I'm going to carry to the 9th power, and there it is. Okay. And then ask you, how do you turn a number into a fraction? Did anyone figure it out? How do you turn a number into a fraction?
Math 1.
There we go. Math 1, math frock, right? So if I have, let's say 5 and 2/10, right? And I want to turn that into a fraction. I type 5 and 2/10, and I'm going to hit math 1, enter, and it tells me that 5 and 2/10 is 26/5. Okay. How do you simplify a fraction? So on your calculator, you have the option to hit, I need the thing, is it alpha? You would hit alpha and then your variable button. And if you hit alpha and the variable button, it allows you to create a fraction. If you start off as a fraction, your calculator automatically works it as a fraction and reduces it. If you're working with an older calculator, you write it as a division problem. So if I wanted to know what is 9/6 reduced, I would have to write it as 9 divided by 6. That is how you would put it in. And then I would hit math 1 to get the reduced value of it. Does that make sense? Okay. Then the last thing they asked you to do was square root. I'm going to hit second square. It's the inverse of squaring something is to take its root. Okay. So I can second square, and I can put anything under here. Okay. Just tidbit. If you want to take the square root of anything, you go to math, and you can take the cube root, or you can go to here and type in whatever root you need. So if I wanted to take the 4th root of 225, it'll say, here you go. Okay. So there's a lot you can do. And the bonus, I'll just see how you did on the challenge problem. Okay. And that's your calculator review or introduction, depending on who you are.